AsliGoli from Pakistan, and Saeem, who's going to pitch us right now. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Saeem and I'm the founder of AsliGoli, which stands for Real Medicine in Urdu. And we work with Big Pharma to eliminate counterfeits in the developing world. The reason I'm here today is because in developing markets, around a quarter of all drugs are actually counterfeit. Just annually, around 700,000 lives are lost in the developing world because of the consumption of counterfeit medicine. And it's a huge revenue drain for pharma manufacturers as well, in addition to diluting their brand over time. Just a quick tour of some of these manufacturing facilities. In the top, you'll see, someone's making pills. I guess the silver lining there is, at least the individual in question is wearing gloves while they make counterfeit pills, but that's really all there is to it. And then below, we see something that is definitely not cough syrup, unless by cough syrup you mean aggravating the cough by itself. This not only is this something that's been there, but it's something that's been consistent. So like in January 2012, around 100 people died because of contaminated cardiac drugs. And then, funnily enough, later that year, around 16 people died because of a toxic cough syrup concoction. And then just a couple of weeks ago, around 450 pharmacies selling spurious drugs were actually shut down in the second largest city of Pakistan. So what do we do about this? And how do we solve this problem? The way we do this is by empowering consumers and working with the manufacturers of the drugs. These are the two stakeholders that are most affected by the counterfeit drug problem. So essentially what we do is we work with a pharmaceutical manufacturer, and at the line level, we use a label applicator to put in a scratch label. It's kind of like a lotto card with a scratch label and a unique serial code hidden behind the label. If you're the end user or the consumer, all you need to do is scratch off the label and see that number, and then you can send us an SMS. And around 80% of the population in Pakistan has a feature phone, or what you call a dumb phone over here, so they can all send and receive SMS text messages, and that's true across most of the developing world now. As soon as you send us the text message, we check the serial number within our database, and we can provide an instant verification of the drug. And when we do that, we'll tell you if your drug is real. We'll also provide details about the drug as well as the expiry date. And then this is a sort of way to engage patients over time, and we're collecting data regarding this usage about what kind of patient is using what drug. And this is something that's hugely monetizable, particularly in the chronic disease segment. So we're talking segments like diabetes or cardiovascular disease, tropical medicine, where a lot of conditions can be chronic, and the lifetime value of the patient is very significant. Just in terms of the market size, we estimate there's around $180 million worth of the market. Probably, from what we've seen, it's this problem is more likely to be fixed by the multinationals. So it's generally like around half that amount. And then globally, it's the market for this is around $1.5 billion. And the way we sort of price our product is we charge a fixed fee per code. That's around 1 cent or about a rupee. So the total cost of ownership here for the code, for the verification, and initially we'll sort of it's a flat fee in the beginning, but as we sort of build the platform a little more, we might sort of make the pricing a little more segmented. So there'd be a separate fee for the reports, for code generation, for more detailed analytics, and so forth. And lastly, just in terms of scale, what we've seen is this is more of an enterprise software market, and this has been one of our key learnings. I moved to Pakistan in October, and one of the things we saw that when you're wanting to make a change at the assembly line in a pharmaceutical manufacturer, it does happen, but it probably takes more time. So in terms of our sort of revenue capabilities, what we're looking at is sort of launching a pilot in Q4 of this year, and then by the end of next year we expect around roughly $1.2 million in revenue. Just in terms of our team, I've used to work at a startup in Toronto. I moved to Pakistan in October to pursue AsliGoli full-time. Zed founded a healthcare startup right after high school, and then after that he pursued a degree in computer science at Berkeley. as well as our advisors. So one of our advisors is actually the chairman of the Pakistan Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association and has been a source for many of our leads, and we're also advised by the Dean of School of Engineering at Habib University. We're located at booth 9. We're on TechList, techlist.com/AsliGoli, and you can contact me via email. I'm at ssiddiqui@asligoli.org. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I know I'm the last one, and stay away from counterfeits. Thank you.
Could you help me explain the user journey? So I want to buy a drug. I go to the drugstore, I see the bottle, then I see the serial number. I don't know whether it's a fake one or a real one, then I text you, right? So what stopped the fake drug maker to fake the serial number?
Yeah, so the serial number is a unique code for one-time usage. That's one thing. The other one is that most of the counterfeit manufacturing is also done at a certain scale. So what we've seen, and during our conversations, what we've seen is that most of the counterfeiting is taking place at the wholesale distributor level. That's where the supply chain leakages occur. So you kind of need like 50,000 serial numbers if you want to make a counterfeit product, and the only way to get them is through a distributor. And we're tracking these products through the supply chain as well, so we'll know exactly where the leakage occurs.
So 1 cent per code, right? How much per SMS?
So this involves everything. The user will pay the cost of the SMS, but there's sort of no fees beyond that.
Don't you have to send something back?
Yeah, so we set up a two-way SMS gateway. This includes the cost of the SMS. So we provide the codes, the reports, as well as the SMS.
So the user is paying for that, and your margin per SMS is 1 cent. How do you make your $1.2 million? Where's that come? You're charging a distributor another 1 cent per label?
So we're charging the pharmaceutical manufacturer 1 cent per code, which is on the label.
User pays 1 cent for it.
The user doesn't pay anything. The user doesn't pay anything. They just send us an SMS.
How much does the SMS cost you?
To us? So, I mean, we set up a two-way gateway, and it depends on the sort of scale we're looking at, but like right now for the volume that we expect to have for this year, it'll be approximately, 1/5 of the cent, so 20 pesos.
You need to ship 112 million labels. You need to ship 112 million labels in that year where you make 1.2 million, and it doesn't matter if people actually check or not, because the distributor pays for the production of labels anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's still good to have uptake anyway. It probably won't be 100%, as long as it's within the 10% sort of region, we're good. But we need to sort of, work with the distribution channel. So one of the things we're doing is...
So how many bottles get distributed a year you went launch in Pakistan, you said, right? So how many bottles of medicine get distributed?
So just to give you a quick idea, I mean, there's some segments that we won't be targeting because they're really low cost, but some of the leading products, the volume of that is around 3 million a month, so that's 36 million per year. This would be for the cardiovascular disease, diabetes, broad spectrum antibiotics, antimalarials.
It's for premium medicine.
Antimalarials and tuberculosis aren't premium, but they have high volume. So it's a combination of margin and volume that's at play here. So sometimes, in tropical it's volume. For most of the other ones, it is usually a premium drug, yes.
So I don't mean to dominate a bit, but there's one Indian startup which is a health cart, is it? Is it health cart? Is that sells medicine online?
Yes.
And they claim to guarantee all of it is non-counterfeit.
Right.
How do they do that in India?
I think it's because they're buying it directly from the manufacturer because it's e-commerce. So usually the contamination in the supply chain is taking place when a wholesale distributor works with the counterfeiter to give the retailer a fake drug.
Because that would be a competing, in the big space of buying medicine. If somebody can do that, and you can get your medicines directly, you don't need to SMS, you don't need to scratch anything off, that would be a...
Yeah, we've looked at that as well. I mean, uptake for pharmacies, online pharmacies have been really low. You need to get a prescription. It's especially with some of these premium drugs, it's a different game altogether. And if you have an allergy or if you need an antibiotic right away, these drugs ship to you in 2 to 3 days. So it's probably a long way. I think maybe I'll be alive, but I think maybe in about a decade or two from now that could happen.
And maybe you can apply this to like fake whiskey as well. Fake whiskey. Sorry, there's fake food products out there. So I mean, for me, the technology seems fairly basic, right? I mean, and if you're let's say a pharmaceutical distributor like Sule or whatever, right? Like, what stops them from being able to actually provide this service? You know what I mean? As kind of like as they work with all the manufacturers coming into Pakistan. Right, like the defensibility of it, because once it becomes a standard, I mean, how do you defend against these big distributors that have quite a bit of money that, you know, I mean, because it's fairly simple, I would say, just a kind of SMS verification, and they're the ones that are actually putting these on the bottles themselves, right?
So for most of these manufacturers, they're mostly in the manufacturing sort of space. What we do is, you know, this also sometimes requires, you know, assembly line integration and stuff. So, you know, you need to connect a PLC and so forth. So that's where our expertise comes in. The other thing is that by the time we scale, like, we're going to be monetizing this data pretty quickly in terms of, you know, the patient data that we're getting in. You can use this to sort of, you know, get to focus groups quicker, drive patient engagement. There's also other add-ons like refill reminders and so forth. So the kind of scale that requires those value-added services is probably more difficult for a single manufacturer to do it by themselves and to duplicate it. The other thing is that, you know, with one recognized SMS gateway, so like, you know, right now the digits stand for ASLI. So, you know, that once that sort of gets recognized, that, you know, could become a standard.
And it's a great problem that you're trying to solve, by the way. I mean, socially, you know, a social responsible problem, I guess.
Definitely, and we're sort of talking with aid organizations as well. You know, there's a lot of people who are interested in driving the awareness by themselves because it's in their interest, and that's definitely a channel that we intend to use.
For this to work fully, and from a consumer standpoint, I suppose you need all the pharma companies, the manufacturers, to use this. What if, you know, a portion of them does not use this? From a user experience, I mean, you can imagine, like, let's say, you know, out of 100 pharma companies, you manage to only convince like 50 of them, half of them to use this. So as a consumer, you know, I will be dependent on, because, you know, probably I buy 2-3 drugs at the same time, and some of it will be on board, some is not. So, you know, how do you resolve that?
That's an excellent question, and I don't think we can guarantee that it will be on every drug. Some local manufacturers might not be interested because they operate on really low margins. However, you know, the top 30 have more than 60% of the market share of the top 30 manufacturers, and these are mostly multinationals. So that's one thing. The other is that, you know, pharma is an interesting space because the decision maker for the purchase is actually not the consumer or the patient. The decision maker is actually the physician. And so we're using the sales force of the pharma manufacturers as a channel to sort of position the product as unique as well, and then the patient can recommend it. So you sort of know which drug has it because your physician will tell you accordingly.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much. It is a good problem.